Hello, you're watching the single malt review of Dave and Tim, and now, today we're venturing back to India for the first time in quite a while. We recently sampled some Indian rum, which didn't necessarily tickle our fancy, but 2 years ago we looked at some Indian whisky, the rather excellent, consistently good single malts from Amrut. So, I've been looking forward to this for a long time. Today it is some Paul John offerings.
Yes, indeed. We've got another selection box here.
Yes.
My favourite type of box in the world, because it means we get to try an entire range without having to have enormous bottles floating around the place. And it's speaking of boxes, it's a pretty smart wee box.
It is quite impressive presentation.
You'd expect it to contain little chocolate seashells or something. It's really, really rather flash. So hopefully the whisky will follow suit, because as Dave mentioned, the Indian rum, you'd say, charitably has some catching up to do, but the malt whisky, or at least the malt whisky from Amrut and Paul John, fairly well regarded. Now we're starting with the Brilliance.
We are starting with Brilliance,
okay.
yeah. So Paul John, the John Distilleries have been going since 1992. They produce a range of wines and spirits and whisky-like entities. But it was in 2012 they started selling actual, factual, single malt whisky. Just drained the last of the water out of my glass. So, beginning with Brilliance, which is kind of the core of their flagship range.
And it's also their all Indian expression as well, isn't it?
Exactly, yes. Some sort of borderline Himalayan barley, which is then distilled down in Goa and matured in ex-bourbon casks for 3 to 5 years, I believe it is.
Yeah.
A very rapid maturation, because Goa, famous in the West as a resort town, it's on the coast, it's in the far south, it is well tropical and extremely warm.
Extremely secure bottles too,
Yeah,
it seems.
well, yes, with some high security screw cap. Goodness, sorry.
Shall I... So is it going to play ball?
Oh, we got it.
We got it, all right.
We've
Good-o.
accessed for whiskey.
Got it in the end. Oh, it's another one of those jobbies, isn't it? It's left the ring
is.
behind. That's the problem.
Yeah.
All right, never mind.
These are all non-chill filtered and 46%.
So that's good stuff as well.
Yeah.
That's what you want to see. Always good when a whisky distillery can get started off the bat making good sort of craft presented whisky, 46%.
Yeah.
And unchill filtered. So
Yeah,
as
a noticeable cloudiness already in there.
it's though it's probably the middle of summer for most of you people watching.
It is right in the middle of winter here.
Smack dab in the middle of winter, and it's really only just gotten started the last couple of days. So it is pretty frigid over in here. So hopefully this will be a bit of tropical flavour for us. Warm our cockles and whatnot.
So after all, we've seen how astonishingly fast whisky can mature in warmer climates.
Yeah.
Kavalan most notably.
I call it the Kavalan effect, which is sort of where it was first, I suppose, where it was first observed. You could say it was maybe first observed in Japanese whisky, because that gets, depending on where you are in Japan, maybe a little bit hotter, but nowhere near as much as somewhere truly tropical, like in Kavalan's case, Taiwan, and in this case, Goa, which is sort of... where would you call that? That's on the west coast of India, about halfway down, maybe a bit more than halfway, maybe towards the southern end. But it's maybe not neighbours, but they're very, very close to the Amrut distillery. So that's sort of an emerging distillery district, you could say. The space side of India, maybe. Who knows?
The nature of that climate is you lose in excess of 10% of the alcohol per year, so you get a...
Devastating rate of evaporation.
You're not going to find a 21-year-old, for instance, very easily. Well, you're definitely not from Paul John, because that's quite literally impossible at this stage. Nonetheless, let's take it.
What you do find now and then is some really, really good whiskey. So, that really is a promising start when you don't even have to put water in your whiskey for it to cloud up.
Yeah.
That's always promising. So we looked for quite a rich, heavy body in here with all those extra goodies floating around in it.
I'm looking for a reference to whether or not it's been coloured. I'm not seeing much.
I would hazard to say it has not been coloured, because given how quickly it ages, how quickly it sucks things out of the oak, were they going to colour things, I'd expect that to be a wee bit darker. So we'll see.
Quite possibly first fill bourbon, definitely ex-bourbon.
Now I'm thinking back to Amrut here. That had a really... Funny enough, quite a tropical, really super sort of fruity, citrus orange kind of a juicy flavour. And this is not monumentally dissimilar.
And what I found with the Amrut was there is a marked difference in the expressions made entirely with Indian barley, which made me think there are some inherently different characteristics to the local barley.
Oh, well,
and that's coming through here too. It was much more aromatic, had almost a spicy element to it compared to the more subdued Scottish barley.
It'll be I mean, is anyone remotely familiar with wine and the whole terroir carry-on? Almost everything is different in India. If the barley is grown, even if it's exactly the same, clone exactly the same type of barley, so, be it Golden Promise or whatever they're using these days, barley's updated fairly frequently to the next modern flagship variety. It will grow much, much faster, have hugely better access to water. The soil type will be completely different over there. It's sort of more volcanic, metal-rich soils there in India, that part of India anyway, as opposed to Scotland, which is very inert, geologically speaking. It will produce a manifestly different thing on the chemical level. So we'll be looking for differences all through this particular whisky.
On the nose, my first impression is of freshly sawn oak.
Yeah.
Just like a freshly chopped wood, still moist, still sappy, not at all dried or toasted or cast.
It's big time oaky, and that immediately sets it a wee bit apart from the Amrut. That was immediately fruity. This is... It's maybe a little bit more Scotchy.
Hints of apricots and cardamom lurking behind that wood.
Yeah. Yeah, oaky, spicy, but then, as you say, stone fruit. There's apricot, almost it's like a dried apricot.
Yeah.
That mostly sweet, but that slightly sour tang to it.
Much less of a bourbon influence than I'd expect from a bourbon cask, which is, it's always good to be surprised.
But perfectly pleasing and smooth as well. It's not, it's not rocket fuel strength, it's only 46, but no prickle on there. It's quite soft,
Oh, that is quite wonderful. There is a kind of a slow crescendo of warmth and spice and fruit. It expands, kind of swells up through a palate.
Yeah.
A little bit of a prickle, but just enough to be curious.
A wee bit more than a little bit of a prickle to me. There's that's pretty soft on the nose, but man, pretty snappy on the palate. Really cracks the whip across the tongue.
Yeah, apricots, peaches, lashed with just a little bit of black pepper and just the faintest hint of chili.
Yeah, that stone... Oh, goodness me, Charlie.
Oh, and a surprise cat.
Once again, this is becoming a tradition. If only it was the slightly favourite one. If you're extremely good, you can stay over here. Sit down. Here we are. All set. Whereas, again, Amrut fruity, this one, it's also fruity, but the fruits are different. This is stone fruit. Apricot is so dominant in all aspects of this whisky. It's really quite striking. It's not common that you get a whisky which tastes so much of one particular element, but apricot is just huge on this, in both the nose and the palate. It's quite compelling.
There's a good thread of that same sappy oak which you got on the nose, which is prevalent throughout the entire palate, when you first sip right through to the finish. It's not so much we just tasting a big old mouthful of wood. You're not chewing on lumber here.
Yeah. So, I mean...
Just a punctuation to the flavour.
To sort of break it down, apricot, a little bit of citrus, some tropical fruits, there's a very, very slight, and I mean quite slight, mango pawpaw element here.
Mango, a little bit of pineapple I'm getting to.
Yeah, and then a lot of wood. A lot of wood.
But no, this is frankly, a stunning use of a bourbon cask. It has taken that cask influence in new and exciting directions, due to the unique climate this has been matured in, perhaps the unique local strains of barley as well. This is really quite a...
It will certainly be a confluence of certain different local, regional factors. There's a heat to this one. There's a slight, call it either youthfulness or immaturity, depending on whether you're feeling charitable or not, that I think was absent in the Amrut. I don't remember the Amrut being quite as... There's a hotness here, there's a heat to it.
I think the Amrut matures to a very slightly cooler climate, possibly for a longer period as well. Here, it matures much more quickly, so just by necessity, you're going to have a much younger spirit. Yeah. So a bit rougher, maturing very quickly, but still not rougher, a bit more raw, a bit more elemental.
There's sort of a volatile fuminess. Oh dear, Charlie. You're actually scratching me, but whatever. Volatile fuminess to this one, which isn't 100% up my alley. I feel that the Amrut was maybe just a little bit juicier, but not to say that this is in any way unpleasant. It's a pretty, considering the age, which is 5 years minus, probably, it's fairly cracking drab.
Yeah, definitely.
Scores-wise, I'm still cogitating. What do you think on scores for this one?
I'd say our foray into Paul John is off to a very good start. I'm surprised and impressed, and this one rates 90 for me.
Wow. That's an immensely strong start for that one. I'm not quite as enthused with that one. It's just something about that heat which is bringing me down on it just a tiny bit. There's just a sort of a rough quality to it. I don't know, maybe my cold may be impairing me quite a wee bit as well. But that one's an 82 from me. Pretty solid whiskey, but at this stage, was it a horse race? I think Amrut is just in the lead for me, so we will see. All right then, we'll be up with the next one really, really shortly. Discard this cat somewhere. Slanger as well.